guys, welcome back. My name is Kenzie if you're new here. Today we're going to continue with our DIY kitchen renovation. So last time we put in the backsplash, we moved the cabinets up, we put trim around the sliding glass door. We took out this beast of a fridge that stuck out about a foot into this tiny narrow walkway. So we decided to replace it with a counter depth fridge, and I found this one off of Facebook Marketplace. So it is such a steal. We still have to build that in and kind of make it look like it blends in with the rest of the kitchen. We took this huge microwave out. I didn't realize how big it was until we took it out, but it emptied up so much space in the kitchen, and we're just gonna get a new smaller microwave and put it in our pantry. So what's on the agenda today is we need to make a vent hood where our microwave was. We're gonna build the vent hood ourselves, and we're gonna use the existing cabinet to do that because our new vent is the exact same size as the cabinet, so it will fit in there perfectly, and then we can just kind of build around that. So it should be pretty easy. I want to do a more plastered look for the vent hood, and I want it to look almost like stone-like. So we're going to attempt to do that together. I also need to finish the backsplash on this side where the fridge is. We need to get a wet saw so we can really finish the backsplash, and then I'm going to grout the backsplash as well, because yes, I love the way that it looks like this right now without grout, but I think maintenance wise it's going to be easier to clean with grout. And we're just going to start finishing everything up so I can start painting. I feel like painting is going to be kind of the last step because there's a lot of little built-in things that we have to get done. We got a lot to do. We're just going to keep trucking along. I'm going to take you guys along for the ride. Let's get started. We're getting right into it by finishing the backsplash on this wall. So right now I'm just getting this area cleared off and prepped. I'm removing the outlet and light switch covers, and I'm also just wiping the surface with a wood spray to get rid of any dirt or debris so the mastic can adhere properly to the wall. I'm also putting on some contact paper on the countertops just to protect them a little bit from getting adhesive on them, and just for easier cleanup later. I explained more of this whole backsplash applying process and applying these Zellige tiles in my last kitchen makeover video, so I will spare you the whole entire tutorial today. But definitely refer to that if you want more details on how I did this. But basically you soak the tiles for a few minutes before putting them on the wall. And every tile is very different because these are handmade. So the hues and textures can vary in each tile a little bit. So that's why I like to lay them all out so I can mix and match them so they're all spread out cohesively. And then they also get a chance to dry from after they were soaking in the water. For the edge pieces and the pieces around the outlets, we needed a wet saw to cut the tiles, so my brother-in-law came over and actually finished up the job for us. He does this for a living, so it was very convenient that he had a tool to cut these tiles, and we're just so grateful that he came over to help us finish. We definitely needed him, but we are gonna let that backsplash sit and dry, and I will go ahead and grout everything a little later on in this video. Now let's work on the range hood. We are putting 2x4s on the walls for our cabinet to connect to. We connected them to the studs to ensure that they're secure, and we're doing this for a few reasons. One, so the outlet on the range hood has enough room to actually plug in, and two, I want the range hood sticking out just a smidge so it can be more of a focal point and stand out from the cabinets right beside it. So now that the 2x4s are in, we're gonna go ahead and put the cabinet up. And once the cabinet's up, now it's time to put the hood in. So this is a ductless hood, which means that it has a special filter to ventilate through itself, kind of like the one that's on the bottom of microwaves. So we don't have a whole duct system built into our kitchen, and that is just a whole process, and it was going to be pretty expensive, and we would have to hire someone, and so we didn't want to do all that. So instead of getting one that ducts to the outside, we decided to just get an under cabinet ductless hood and disguise it to make it look like it's ducted outside, just so it can feel a little bit more high end. So now we're cutting out our skeleton that's going to determine the shape of the hood. I'm using drywall for the outer portion, and that's what I'm cutting right now. I want a slight curve, so I'm using a Lowe's bucket to help trace the curve so I get a good little arch. Then I'm tracing the slant up a little bit into a straight line, and I'm using a ruler to make sure it's straight. I'm using a jigsaw to cut these two sides out, and I'm just going very slowly and trying my best to just get the cleanest cut possible. And I'm also using the first side that I cut out to trace the cutout for the second, so I know they're both identical. So now we have these two pieces. We're gonna sand them so they are the exact same. They're pretty much almost the exact same, but now we're gonna sand it just to make sure, and also to just kind of smooth out the edges a little bit, because we didn't get a perfect cut with our jigsaw, so that is what the sanding is for. I nailed the two side panels into the little sides of the cabinet that was sticking out. This is when the 2x4s in the back of the cabinet really came in handy, because I actually had something to secure these sides to rather than making a pocket hole. So then I just started building the frame around it. I used 1x2s in the middle, going all the way up to the ceiling and also on the two sides. I'm using these so our front piece of drywall actually has something to nail into. We tried to nail the drywall into another piece of drywall, and that just doesn't work. You can't really nail drywall into drywall. I didn't know that, but we quickly learned that. When I walk in the room.
That looks good, actually.
So now we gotta cut off this little trim. This edge just wasn't right, but it's fine. We're gonna do that. And then we're gonna start putting the drywall up. So I saw someone put water on the drywall, like get the drywall wet just so it's easier to bend, because we're gonna have to bend it so it kind of matches the arch a little bit. So let's go do that. And I quickly realized I needed more framing for the drywall to get the right shape that I wanted. So I got some scrap pieces of wood from the garage, and I just cut them the same shape as the drywall on the sides. And I cut out 3 of these guys, and I put 1 in the middle and 2 on the sides. I saw somewhere that if you get drywall wet, it's supposed to bend, and we want it to bend slightly. So we're gonna see if this works. I just got a wet paper towel, and I'm just, yeah, okay.
There it is.
Okay. Yeah, you're gonna have to stop. After about an hour of the water soaking into the drywall, it was ready to bend, and sure enough, it worked. I got it wet a little bit right before I bent it again, just to, I don't know, make it more bendable. I don't know if that did anything, but I needed Nick's help putting this one up to make sure everything was straight and was bent the right way. So he had to put the camera down quickly to come help me before the water dried. And I just nailed this top piece of drywall to the frame pieces behind it. So now I'm sanding off any overlapping edges so everything can be even, because I am going to put corner bead and joint compound on. So the corners don't need to be perfect because we're covering it with corner bead, but they can't be overlapping like they were. So I'm just sanding it off a little bit. I'm using a tool called a drywall rasp, and it's used to shave drywall down. It kind of looks like a cheese grater, and it worked so well for getting everything evened out. Now I'm putting the corner bead on. I'm using a flexible corner bead that I can shape myself to how I need it. This especially came in handy for the curve. To use this, you'll need some drywall mud or joint compound to adhere it. And this mud also came in handy because I used it to cover up all the nail holes and to help shape out any dents or imperfections in the drywall as it was getting bent. I'm using scissors to cut slits in the sides of the corner bead so I can bend it easier without having any overlaps or creases. I put this corner bead on every corner that meets with another, and it truly just made the biggest difference. It makes such a clean line on the corners, and it really made it look very professional, I would say. Honestly, I don't think it would have turned out this good without this stuff. It was definitely my saving grace. I put a good amount of joint compound on, and I just kind of pushed it into the mud so it went through the little holes of the corner bead. I kind of wiggled it a little bit to get it in the right place and to make sure it was super stuck and secure on there. Then I put a ton of joint compound over the top to help hide the crease of the corner bead. I went in with about 2 or 3 layers of this stuff until you couldn't see the corner bead at all. I made it a little smooth, but I didn't worry too much about the texture because once it's dry, I'm gonna sand it smooth anyways. For everyone wondering where the microwave went, here it is. We actually got rid of the old one because it was just so big and it was just way too big to fit in here. So we just got this cute little smaller affordable one from Walmart. My dad came over and actually put in an outlet for us to hook up all of our appliances to. So we're also putting our coffee maker in here to free up even more room on the countertops. I'm so excited, and this is just such a great addition. I don't know why the builders didn't put an outlet in my house to begin with, but we have one now. Thank you, Dad.
Yay! Thank you.
It's the next day, and now Nick is doing a major deep clean of our fridge that we found from Facebook Marketplace, while I start making the plaster for our vent hood. So now that the joint compound is completely dry, I'm going to start sanding it smooth. I'm leaving some texture, but not too much, but I'm definitely making sure any rough edges are sanded smooth. We're making our own Venetian plaster because I simply just didn't want to wait for the real stuff to come in. So I found what's supposed to be an authentic recipe online so we can make our own at home. So you mix an equal part of flat paint and water together, add a dab of wheat paste, also known as wallpaper adhesive, and then you slowly mix in plaster of Paris until it's a cake batter consistency. Thicker than paint, but not as thick as like joint compound would be. I'm actually using a Venetian plaster paint that I got from Michael's, and it's just a thicker matte paint that's supposed to mimic the look of Venetian plaster. So I think this mixed with everything else I put in made the perfect recipe for this. For the vent hood, I'm trying to achieve a stone-like effect with subtle varying tones throughout, kind of like a lime wash, but plaster. I did about 3 coats of this plaster, and to apply it, I'm using a flat trowel, and I'm spreading it across in kind of like X motions. I'm moving the trowel in every which way to get a more textured effect and to add to the depth of the design. I lightly sanded all the corners at the end to make sure everything was seamless, and overall, I am so happy with how it turned out. It is exactly what I was picturing, and honestly, it turned out better than I had hoped. Now it's time to start grouting our backsplash. The grout I'm using is by the brand Mapei. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I don't know. And it's the Ultra Color Plus FA in the color Biscuit. This is a subtle beige color, and it's absolutely perfect for these natural white tiles. These tiles are more of a cream tone, and it's like off-white. So the grout color is just such a great match. It doesn't stand out too much, and it really lets the tile shine. I honestly love the tiles so much more than I did before the grout, and I didn't even think that that was possible because I loved it before the grout too. Grouting was definitely the right decision, so thank you guys for convincing me. You guys are always just so right. The tool I'm using to spread this on is called a rubber float. I'm not really doing this in any particular way. I'm just spreading around the grout until it gets in all the creases of the tiles completely. I made the grout not too thick that it's hard to spread around, but also not too thin that I would have to go back over and do it again. It's kind of like a paste consistency, kind of similar to the Venetian plaster we made earlier. you're supposed to wait about 20-ish minutes before wiping off the tiles with a wet sponge. I definitely waited too long and it was pretty hard to get it off. We were sitting there scrubbing for a while. So my advice is definitely don't wait too long. I would say wipe it off sooner rather than later. You want the grout to be hard in between the tiles, but you don't want it to be completely dry yet. You want to still be able to easily wipe off the grout off of the surface of the tiles. Okay, the backsplash is all grouted and I love how it looks. I think it looks very mermaidy. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, it looks a lot lighter and it's really bringing out the different colors of the tiles, like the pinks and the blues. It is just beautiful. I love this tile so much. Here's our range hood. I have to touch up there, but we'll probably do that at the end because I'm gonna have to touch up in a lot of places. So my question is, I love this backsplash so much. So originally we were gonna kind of just put some trim up there and make it seem like the cabinets were all the way to the ceiling. And I'm wondering, should I go ahead with that plan and stick with that plan, or should we put the backsplash all the way up to the ceiling? So we would just have like another row of backsplash up there, so it would look like this whole backsplash is just like one whole wall. Honestly, I think both would look really nice and I can't decide what I want to do. I like how if we did that, then the hood would be the center of attention and it would make it stand out a little bit more. But I do think that if we raised them to the ceiling, it would look really grand. So I don't know, I can't decide. I think that both would look really good. So let me know what you guys are thinking now that the hood is in.